There are political shocks, aren't there? There are near misses, and then there's Runcorn and Helsby, where in the space of one short account, the Labour Party has lost a majority of nearly 15,000 votes, and Nigel Farage's Reform UK has gained its fifth MP by just six, and it will go down in history as the place where Mike Amesbury hit a constituent not once but six times, it appears, and then went to jail. And then, when the law felt a little bit more kind, he was released. He's been on television to explain what he did. It's just a nightmare. If you belong to Runcorn and Helsby, it must be extraordinary to be in such a spotlight. First the hitting, and now the political earthquake of seeing your constituency taken over by Reform UK. The victor is a person called Sarah Potchin, and she's emerged as a surprise winner of one of the tightest Westminster by-elections in post-war history. Six votes. A contest so close it needed not one but two declarations to be believed. I'm surprised that I'm really surprised that it only went to one recount. Maybe there were other recounts, but it's the story isn't just about votes. It's also about violence, volatility, and vengeance. There's a bit of alliteration for you of the electorate. Let's begin with the cause of this by-election. The former Labour MP, the thug, Mike Amesbury, once considered a safe pair of hands, it's all about hands here, very handsy, resigned in disgrace after CCTV footage and phone footage emerged of him punching a constituent in Frodsham, not once but six times. And his subsequent conviction for assault was met with eventually a suspended sentence, and it would seem widespread local revulsion. And if you want, if in a local election you want to rebel against the party that has held the seat for so long, then you look to the opposition. But the opposition, how could anyone look to the Conservatives? One cannot help but note the symbolism. A Labour MP literally striking the public, only for the public to strike back at the ballot box. Poetic, possibly, predictable, perhaps not. A little bit more alliteration. But it is an indictment of the rot that can quietly fester under the assumption of electoral invincibility. Now, as for Reform UK, this wasn't just a win, it was an audition for national relevance. Sarah Potchin's speech declared enough Labour lies, enough Tory failure. Barely any alliteration. And that is, in essence, Reform's pitch, that both parties have become indistinguishable, inert, and indifferent, more alliteration, to working class concerns. Nigel Farage, always the showman, arrived at the court like a ringmaster at a political circus, declaring that Runcorn and Helsby had sent a message from across England, and he's not wrong. Labour's safe seat turned out to be anything but, and the Conservatives, their vote cratered, with their candidate clinging to his deposit by his fingernails. This wasn't a swing, it was an exodus. Reform took votes, took voters who feel patronised by Labour and abandoned by the Tories. And in a seat where 750 asylum seekers recently arrived via small boats, the immigration issue was not abstract. It was tangible and present. Farage exploited that discontent with brutal efficiency, framing the Channel crossings not only as a national failing but as a local grievance. Labour, for its part, tried to characterise the defeat as a by-election blip, difficult conditions, extraordinary circumstances, but this was more than a wobble, this was a wake-up call. Runcorn isn't Hartlepool or Clacton, it isn't stereotypical left-behind Britain, it is a commuter belt with Labour traditions and middle-class anxieties, and yet it slipped through Starmer's fingers like dust. Worse still, Starmer's fingerprints are now all over this mess. This was his first by-election test since becoming Prime Minister, and he's failed it. Reform didn't just beat Labour, They did so on Labour's home turf and with a candidate whose name was barely known to most voters 3 weeks ago. As for the margin, 6 votes, it's easy to scoff, but that number should haunt both Labour HQ and CCHQ because it reveals the level of volatility in the electorate. The idea that reform is a protest movement with no staying power may have to be revised. Farage now has momentum, media attention, and his first female MP. In the space of one night, he has turned reform from a national irritant into a parliamentary presence with renewed legitimacy. Now, pause and be realistic. Reform isn't winning government anytime soon. It has no councils, no infrastructure, no manifesto anyone could realistically implement, but that may not matter. Its purpose may not be to govern, but to gouge. To wound Labour in the Red Wall, to split the right and destroy the Conservatives, to act in effect as a wrecking ball for both establishment parties. And it's succeeding. So what does this say about the future? Firstly, that Labour can't coast on Tory failure. Runcorn suggests Labour's plan for change isn't cutting through in constituencies where people feel culturally uneasy, economically squeezed and politically betrayed. Telling voters that NHS waiting lists are improving doesn't matter if the hospital car park is still full and GP appointments are still mythical, and when you go to the hospital car park you have to pay such an exorbitant fee simply to wait in line. Secondly, it raises serious questions about candidate vetting on both sides. Labour's Mike Amesbury was a walking scandal, and yet somehow he won 14,000 majority last year. That raises a deeper question. Is the problem with Labour's policies or with its people? And thirdly, it shows that political earthquakes don't always start in London or the Red Wall. Sometimes they begin in the middle of Cheshire with a punch, a recount, and a party that may still call a joke turning up with the last laugh. It's an amazing turn around. So, Reform now has 5 MPs. Let's recap. That's more than the Greens. That's more than the Lib Dems had after the 2015 wipeout. And all it took was 6 votes, a battered reputation, and a Farage photo op. If you think that's the end of the story, I'm afraid you haven't been paying attention.